As my favorite astrology teacher once said, the tropical zodiac tells us about our personality, and the sidereal zodiac tells us about the soul. Hey, it's Dave, and in this video, I'm going to share with you why I believe that the true sidereal zodiac is made for these times, and why I've started to use it more often than the tropical zodiac. We're going to cover the differences between these two zodiacs so that you can decide which one is better for you. At the end of the video, I'm going to share a link to a free 3-day program that I created, which will give you a reading using the true sidereal zodiac enhanced by human design and the gene keys. This is part of the trifecta system that I have been developing for quite some time now. So let's dive in and get started with the basics. The tropical zodiac is the zodiac that we use in Western astrology. If you read your horoscope in the newspaper, or if you've had a session with most astrologers in North America, Australia, and Europe, you will likely have encountered it before. The tropical zodiac is oriented for the seasons in the northern hemisphere. It begins on the point in the sky that the sun rises on the spring equinox. Think of this as the starting line for the zodiac. From there, from where the sun rises on the spring equinox, each of the 12 constellations are given 30 degrees of sky space each. So, this zodiac defines the sign of Aries to be the first 30 degrees of sky space that follows that point where the sun rises on the spring equinox. Similarly, Taurus is then the next 30 degrees from that initial marker. And if you've ever used an astronomy app before to identify planets, stars, and constellations, you'll know that what it shows is quite a bit different than what you see on your chart. For instance, if the astrology transits say that Venus is in Gemini on your chart, the app might instead show Venus being in Taurus. So there is a discrepancy. This is typically why astronomers don't like astrologers. There is no scientific basis for the difference. And this difference is quite significant. It's around 23 degrees out from the stars and the planets as they actually appear in the sky. This reasoning is because the location that the sun rises on the spring equinox changes every year due to the 26,000-year wobble of the Earth. Every 72 years, the sun basically regresses 1 degree along the zodiac. And at the time that the tropical zodiac was developed by Ptolemy in the 3rd century BC, the sun perfectly lined up with the actual zodiac. So it actually lined up. The sun rose on the spring equinox at 0 degrees Aries. What a coincidence. And over the course of Ptolemy's lifetime, the sun rising on the spring equinox did not change by a very noticeable amount, perhaps half a degree at most. However, with each passing century, this offset grew larger and larger, and Ptolemy basically defined this tropical zodiac 2,300 years ago. So for some reason, Western astrology just went with the standard that Ptolemy came up with and didn't change this over time. The reason I hear most used is that tropical astrology depicts the seasons of the soul related to the seasons of the year. So it makes sense that it's mapping the seasons starting at the spring equinox, which is essentially the start of the astrological year. However, more recently that we have discovered the exact mechanism for why astrology works. It's not all woo-woo. It has to do with something in physics, in subatomic physics called the neutrino stream. So neutrinos are tiny subatomic particles that travel just below the speed of light and have the most infinitesimally small amount of mass. They barely matter. And that's why we didn't detect the existence of neutrinos until the 1990s. So these neutrinos are emitted every split second in unfathomable quantities by stars. They contain neutral information coming from the stars that then get activated when they pass through bodies of consciousness. You could say that when a neutrino stream passes through planets, these neutrinos become imprinted by the consciousness of the planet, which is then further filtered when they hit us humans and are again filtered through the lens of our consciousness and subconscious brain. Okay? So neutral neutrinos coming out of stars in the unfathomably large amount, then they take on some attributes of the planet that they're filtered by, and then they're again filtered by our brains. So it would make sense that neutrinos would continue their plight on a direct path towards us. Natal astrology is based on a snapshot of the neutrino stream at our time of birth. Astrologers and human design analysts agree that one's birth time is a very special time, because if you can decode the information carried in the neutrino stream at your time of birth, you can access a wealth of information about your past, your upcoming life challenges, and your ideal destiny. Essentially, it's all there. This is like a quantum blueprint for our past experiences and our yearnings, where our energy wants to go. In essence, in ancient times, it was said to chart the blueprint of one's soul. This neutrino stream, they didn't call it that, of course, but at the snapshot of birth, or where the planets and stars were at our time of birth. However, in the last 70 years, we have discovered DNA. So now we can say that it charts the genetic potential that each individual possesses. Remember that DNA is a multidimensional hologram. It's a liquid crystalline solution that actually exists between the physical and the non-physical. Fascinating stuff, isn't it? So if this is the case, then how come everybody was using an outdated model of the zodiac that followed where the sun rises on the spring equinox and not the actual positioning of stars in the sky? Why would that be? Well, the other major school of astrology in the world is the Vedic system. And Vedic astrology is actually called Jyotish, which roughly translates to time-telling from the Sanskrit language. So the Jyotish system uses the sidereal zodiac, which attempts to accurately account for the positions of stars in the sky. They call their calculations used to correct for this precession of the equinox. So they're basically trying to filter out the influence of the wobble of the earth, and they call those calculations ayamnamshas. You'd think that they would have one simple calculation to filter out the wobble of the earth, but in fact, there are many ayamnamshas. Some are more accurate now than others. This is because different astrologers and sages created their calculation at different points in history. So you can think of this as creating an ayamnamsha is like trying to hit a slow-moving target. And the further back that one was created, the less accurate it would be. So the Lahiri ayamnamsha is the one that's used most in India today. However, sidereal astrology is also used in the West as well. Some Western astrologers do believe that the actual planets and stars are important for providing accurate information in an astrology reading. Cyril Fagan and Donald Bradley are famous for creating the fagan-bradley ayamnamsha that gets used in modern Western sidereal astrology. By this point, you're probably feeling like this is all a big data overload. All you need to remember here is one thing, that the tropical or Western astrology system sets the zodiac based on where the sun rises on the spring equinox. This position was accurate 2,300 years ago. However, since then, it's drifted out by 23 degrees since that time. The Indian system uses the sidereal zodiac, which attempts to reconcile the precession of the equinox or wobble of the earth to accurately depict the stars and planets in the sky. Now, there is one more piece that is super important, and we have not discussed this yet. And that is that there are 12 constellations of the zodiac. These 12 constellations of the zodiac are not a uniform 30 degrees each. They do not fit into neat little boxes like you see on astrology charts. And in fact, there is a 13th sign that was just lumped in there as another one of the signs, just to kind of keep things even at an even 12. So it wasn't until very recently, the last 30 years, that the zodiac constellation boundaries were accurately mapped. The International Astronomical Union, which is a thing, believe it or not, mapped the boundaries of the constellations of the zodiac, and well, they turned out to be quite different than 12 neat signs each 30 degrees. Some constellations are only a 15-degree arc of sky space. Others, like Virgo, are 44 degrees. So if we are attributing characteristics to the neutrino streams emitted by stars in each zodiac constellation, then we need to be precise in mapping which constellation they actually originated from. This was not possible in ancient times. In fact, I had to commend the ancient astrologers for doing what they could without satellites and high-powered telescopic imaging. They really did the best that they could just by staring at the sky with their naked eye. However, now that we can accurately measure the position of planets and stars in the sky and the boundaries of constellations, don't you think our way of using astrology should evolve as well? I know this is going to be a contentious item for a lot of people, especially people who have studied an older way and built their careers around that. So this was precisely my thought when a friend introduced me to the concept of the true sidereal zodiac last year. It's called true sidereal because it takes the accurate positioning of planets and stars and combines it with the accurate mapping of constellation boundaries. At first, I was resistant to changing what has been kind of working for me. I learned the tropical zodiac, all my references were based around that, and it was kind of working. But when I tried the true sidereal zodiac, it was like tasting a new delicious flavor for the first time. I asked myself, how could I have possibly lived without this? I used the same approach to my astrological interpretations, my human design interpretations, and the gene keys, but when I changed it from the tropical zodiac to the true sidereal, my interpretations went so much deeper. For a few years before this, I had a rather disturbing experience during some of my readings. I would be reading a person's chart, and they would say, well, this is all true, but this feels like an older version of me. It's not revealing anything new. They were impressed, of course, that I could glean information about their lives that they had not told me just by reading a chart, but it wasn't as helpful as it could be. And I really wanted to provide people with as much value as possible. So that's what sent me forward on this quest. So when I started doing readings with the true sidereal zodiac, I would see epiphanies and revelations occurring in my clients. Oftentimes, people would be stunned by the interpretations because they revealed such deep aspects of their lives. In short, using the true sidereal zodiac made my readings more accurate and more valuable for my clients. Now, I want to be careful here because millions of people are still heavily invested in using the tropical zodiac. The entire system of human design is based around it, and their analysts essentially swear by it. So I'm not saying that the tropical zodiac is wrong. I simply think that it's reading something else, something that is not actually a person's true nature. And the reason for that is because when millions of people use something and they believe in something, they create a group thought form that makes the thing real. So even if it's a concept, we can give life to that concept, right? There's entire religions that are based on things that, aren't real out there. Not every religion is accurate. Sometimes they can just be one person's fantasies that the person was charismatic enough and a whole bunch of people believed, and then it starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And believe it or not, but astrology is used by some who are in the ranks of the elites. J.P. Morgan used astrology. Many of the courts of kings and queens of Europe used astrology, and is still used by top financial analysts in the City of London and Wall Street today. We might not hear about it, but it is being used. So what is tropical astrology giving a reading of? Surely my client said that the readings were accurate, so obviously there's something to it. I believe that the tropical zodiac gives you an accurate depiction of your role within the Maya, the illusion, or the matrix. It speaks to the nature of our personality and our conditioning. So yes, it is accurate to a degree and relatable, but it doesn't provide you with what you think you're getting. I often see that people get pretty identified with their tropical zodiac charts. They'll be like, well, I'm a Virgo, so I'm really detail-oriented. That makes sense. Or I'm a Scorpio, so I'm deep, mysterious, and edgy. This is the role that people play within the simulation. Human design, which is based on the tropical zodiac, admits that it is a tool for deconditioning the Maya. And they say that to use this tool properly, it takes roughly 7 years to do a full deconditioning. So there's nothing wrong with this. It has its purpose. However, I found that when people reached a certain point in their journey of self-discovery, they wanted deeper insights. This is what the true sidereal zodiac provides. It provides a map for one's true essence. It is the quantum makeup of an individual encoded into the fabric of space-time. And when you receive a reading with it, it's not just fun information, it's a transmission of who you really are. Like a tuning fork, when you encounter this knowledge, you begin to vibrate with it in sympathetic resonance. It wakes up the dormant truth force within. I've gone further with this and actually used the true sidereal zodiac for human design readings and gene key readings. And I found the same thing there. They became even more accurate. From there, I was guided to create an entirely new system called Trifecta that synthesizes astrology, human design, and the gene keys through the lens of the true sidereal zodiac. And the results, well, they've been quite profound. I've had the chance to do over 450 readings for people, and the feedback has been nothing short of awe-inspiring. One woman even said, "Wow, fascinating. This reading made so much sense to me. It goes much deeper and feels more correct to me than any astrological or human design reading I had before." I had gained some insight from human design and astrology, and both of them still have value for me, but the true sidereal readings and the placements you found just feel more true, and the gift side feels like what I really want to be. This feels really good and much more aligned than usual astrology. So, empirically, I have been convinced that this approach is what I personally should be using. I'm not here to tell people about their personality or give them validation to identify with the illusion. I'm not here for a longer deconditioning process. I am here to help people align with their unique blueprint and fully live their highest individuated form. So, if you'd like to give this a shot and see if this reading rings true for you, I have a way for you to get started for free. There's a link in the description below to take a free 3-day journey using the Trifecta True Sidereal system. First, you'll get a reading of your collective core wound placement, which is where we always start with this system. And the collective core wound is basically the imprint of Maya upon you when you incarnate. So this is sort of like the thing, challenge with the world that you'll be facing, or the identification with the world that needs to be reconciled and balanced. And not only that, but during the 3-day program, I'll help you really identify that for yourself and also how to shift this from a wound into a gift. So just click the link in the description below if you would like to get started. I'll also be creating a lot more content around human design, astrology, and the gene keys, and doing it from this unique perspective that includes the true sidereal zodiac. So if you like this video, be sure to click the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay informed about future videos. I'll see you again soon. Take care.